fail. I won't give up, no, I won't give in till I reach the end, and I'll start again. No, I won't leave. I wanna try everything. I wanna try even though I could fail. That is our theme song for peer tutoring at Valley. Our jobs as peer tutors is to cultivate and to mentor persistence, diligence, and the try everything attitude. I'm not going to allow academics to bully me or tell me I can't do it. We as peer tutors are going to instill not only skills, but inspiration that we really can change and refashion our brains. So this is training number one. It is the most important training. This is the number one nugget of all tutoring. Everything after this. All right, so this is the number one nugget, is that technology, as wonderful as it is, it allows this training, it allows Moodle for us to upload stuff. It allows communication across distances. As wonderful as it is, technology is reshaping human neurology. And some of the things that are happening are not terribly positive. Let me just recap real quick. Technology is shaping our brains because we're typing more than we physically write, because we spend more time clicking than we do like shading and coloring and drawing, because we're tapping on stuff more than we're physically touching in the 3D model world. That is changing how our brains process information. And for the most part, it is a negative change. Number two thing, unique key thought, is your fingertips are actually connected to your frontal cortex. The frontal cortex of your brain is this frontal part of the brain, and it is the conscious thinking part of your brain. The processing of conscious information is in the frontal cortex. And you process information in your frontal cortex, not simply through your eyeballs, but also through your fingertips. In fact, predominantly through your fingertips. Number three, some of you feel this instinctively, but this is the reality that reading on a screen is different than reading in print. So one of the main differences is when your eyeballs hit a screen is we tend to go, hey, just kind of skim the whole thing. That's why good site design needs to grab people's attentions within 3 seconds flat, because our eyeballs don't actually read word for word. Now, when we're on paper, we tend to read much more linear, left to right, line by line, word for word. Okay, just automatically. So when students spend the majority of their time on the screen, their eyeballs get locked into skim mode. And when you're dealing with complex reading, skim mode, okay, just skimming is not going to lend itself to details. So the first skill you must teach your tutee is this number one skill. You must teach them to read with 3 body parts, 3 times. I'm going to demo this. We're going to do 1 math problem, 1 science problem in another training, and then another humanities problem. So 3 body parts, 3 times. Pass number 1. You read, finger on the paper, finger, not pencil, finger. I'll explain why in just a moment. Finger on paper, lips moving, meaning making sound, and eyes on text. Most students only do the eyes on text. Most of them do not mumble read stuff out loud, nor do they put their finger on the paper. Occasionally they use a pencil, but we want a finger. I'll explain why in just a moment. So that's number 1, 3 body parts. Pass number 2, you go back, filter, either by highlighting or underlining key vocabulary words. When you're dealing with humanities, watch out for specific vocabulary words, maybe names. When you're dealing with math and science, watch out specifically for numbers and units. Geography, watch out for places. That's pass number 2. Pass number 3, you take what you're reading and either you draw a diagram or label a diagram or make a diagram. Could be a Venn diagram, it's the humanities. And then you ask yourself, you pause and you connect and reflect. Connect and reflect means connected to previous learning. What do I know about? Reflect. What have I seen before? What do I know about? What have I seen before? Connect and reflect. This little symbol is when you're working with science and math, especially no naked diagrams. We're going to demo one problem together, specifically related to math. Here are the 3 steps right here. And we're going to do this together. So if I were coaching the person, number 1, you tell the individual to read with their finger on the paper, lips moving, eyes on the paper. That's pass number 1. Finger, not pencil. The reason why it's not the pencil, because the temptation to do step 2 at the same time, which is the filtering, is very high. So if you only do it with the finger, then the filtering part with the pencil forces the student to read the text at least twice. Most students only read text once, but by doing it with the finger and then the filtering with the pencil or a highlighter, it forces the student to automatically read twice. Studies show every single time you reread a text, your understanding goes up. So, finger first. You are a contractor constructing a wheelchair ramp for a home. The ADA guidelines dictate the angle of elevation for a wheelchair ramp should be no more than 5 degrees. There are 2 steps in the front of the home where you are looking to build a ramp. Each step is 18 inches in height. You are looking at a sheet of metal for the ramp, which is 18 feet long, 24 inches wide. What will be the length of the ramp? Will this length of the ramp match the ADA guidelines? If that's filtering, finger track and read with a finger. Now, step 2, you tell the student to filter, which is underline all key words and numbers. So filtering, you are a contractor at a wheelchair ramp for a home. The ADA guidelines dictate an angle of elevation no more than 5 degrees. There are 2 steps. There's a number there in front of the home where you're building a ramp. Each step is 18 inches. Watch out for units. Please draw your attention to your 2 T's to units. That's very complex stuff in science and math. You are looking at a sheet of metal, which is 18 feet long, 24 inches wide. Will the ramp make the guidelines? Step 3, you attempt to draw a diagram and then connect and reflect. As you draw a diagram, get the student to cross out every piece of information. So from here, you would ask them to start drawing a home. So we have an entrance to a home with 2 steps. As they draw stuff or write stuff, in math especially, have them cross the information out in the text to say, I've accounted for that. We've accounted for the steps. We've counted the fact that there's 2 of them. We're looking at a sheet of metal, which is 18 feet long. So the ramp that we're looking at, 18 feet long, 24 inches wide. Another thing is, if they have a hard time drawing, coach them to physically act it out. So, for example, if a student has a hard time even understanding where the ramp is, you might have them go like this with their hands. I got steps and I want to make a ramp by physically acting it out. That is using your fingers. It helps your brain draw it, that frontal cortex, acting it out. All right. And then we're looking for the angle of elevation. And we want that angle to be no more than 5 degrees. All right. Okay, so that is the reading with 3 body parts 3 times step. I'm not actually going to solve this problem. You should notice that it is a SOHCAHTOA problem, but that is walking through the process. Always get in all math problems, anything, any text, read with the finger on paper, lips moving, eyes on text. Pass number 2, underline and filter. Watch out for keywords, numbers and units for math and science, names and places for the humanities. Draw a diagram, label diagrams. This might include maps for the humanities. Connect and reflect on prior information. What do you know about? That is reading with 3 body parts 3 times for math.